Hey, what's up, dudes? Quick little video for you guys, just kind of explaining what we were going to talk about last Wednesday at Youth Life Group. Since we all didn't really get a chance to hang out and stuff like that, I figured to make a video so we can kind of go over this last little bit of stuff before we jump into camp. And so the main reason why I'm making this video in the first place is because I think this is a lot of really important stuff that we need to understand going into camp. And so basically the reason why we go into camp is yeah, for the sake of fun games, yeah, it's going to be really cool and fun. Deck out in green Gators, which actually I'm wearing a green hoodie. I didn't plan that. But yeah, of course it's going to be super fun. It's going to be great, and you're probably going to lose your voice because you're screaming all week and stuff like that. But more importantly than that, it's a really good opportunity for us to connect with God much more in a deeper way and maybe in a new way that we haven't before. And so that's kind of the reason why we are going to camp in the first place. So besides, just the fun games and stuff like that, it really is a chance for us to connect with God and really to go deeper with God in our relationship with God. And so one thing I've noticed is, so I went to youth camps from like 6th grade all the way up until pretty much now. And one thing I've noticed about camp is it seems like throughout the summer, whether you pray or read your Bible or do any of that stuff, God does things and He'll talk to you and He'll speak to you. But what it seems like is all of a sudden once you get to camp, it's like God does these big things. He does these really crazy, miraculous things. And all of a sudden it's like God doesn't do anything for the rest of like your summer, but then you get to camp and then all of a sudden God does a bunch of stuff. And so it almost gives off the impression that like God waits for camp to do anything. And for me growing up, it's always been like, so why is that the case? Why is it that when I finally get to camp, that's when God does something, or that's when God starts to like do these miracles and starts to like speak to me and do all these crazy things? And I think it's for mainly kind of two reasons. The first one is there's not a lot of distractions. Really at camp, the intent of camp is to connect with God, but one of the ways you do that is by removing all these distractions in life. And so that comes in the form of Snapchat, that comes in the form of Instagram, that comes in the form of YouTube, it comes in the form of friends fighting for your attention. And so there's really a whole host of reasons why our attention comes from, okay, here's God, and then it starts to kind of get distracted because you have this thing and this thing and this thing and your Instagram and your Snapchat and your YouTube, and all of a sudden you're basically just super distracted about a whole lot of things in life. And what happens is because of all those distractions in normal day life, it kind of just keeps your attention away from God, basically. And so that's kind of also the second reason why is I think probably the most important reason why it seems like God doesn't do anything during your summer or even during your year until you get to camp is because we're not attentive to God, because we don't have our attention shifted and focused and positioned, if you will, on God. And so what happens is you get to camp and it's almost like you're expecting God to do something. You get to camp and all of a sudden you're kind of like anticipating God to, whether it be speak to you, or you're anticipating that the sermon from the speaker is going to be directly for you, or you're kind of like expecting certain things to happen. And it almost seems like because you're expecting it to happen, then it does. And it's true for me, like when I grew up in middle school and high school and all this, that, during my typical week on a Wednesday afternoon, I wasn't expecting God to speak to me. I wasn't really thinking about it. I was more concerned about my kill streaks in Call of Duty. That was far more important to me than, maybe I'm gonna read my Bible and see what God has to speak to me today, kind of thing. And so in camp, there's two big reasons, again, just to recap, why it seems like God doesn't do much during the summer, but then you get to camp and all of a sudden God does these big things, and it's because of those distractions in our day-to-day life. And so a big reason why I'm kind of like, hey, no phones for camp is because it eliminates even more distractions, because I've even been in camp where I've had my phone and I would literally pull it out every like 15 seconds and I would be like, well, okay, cool, nothing's going on because I had no service, and I put it back in my pocket, and then 2 minutes later I pull it back out like, okay, nothing happened again, so cool. And then I miss what God's doing. And then also kind of like with the attentive thing. And so I guess another way you could put it with the whole attention thing is like in my apartment, I have 2 Nerf guns. Okay, 2 little small Nerf guns that me and Sam got for each other for Christmas. Now, if you don't know they're there, or if you aren't looking for them, you won't know they're there. But if I told you, hey, look for them, eventually you'll find them. And so I think that same kind of principle is kind of why camps are so crazy and so like, hey, God did something, God moved and all that stuff, is because of that if you're looking for it, you'll find it. And if you're not looking for it, then most likely you won't find it. And so I want to give you guys one really big encouragement, or one big challenge for you guys throughout this, throughout the next couple days and also during camp, is to be expecting God to do something. Fully expect God to, whether it be speak to you, that God would maybe audibly speak something to you, or expect God to, or God's presence to be there during worship. Expect to feel something, to encounter something, to hear from God, maybe to see a miracle, whatever the case may be, but fully expect that God will do something. And when we expect it and we're kind of looking for it and attentive to it, things will start to happen. And so that's my one big encouragement for you guys throughout this week as we go to camp, is to be completely expectant, be attentive, be expecting, be anticipating God to do something. And I promise you that when you look for it and when you're expecting it and you're anticipating it, then all of a sudden things will start to happen and you'll start to encounter God and you'll feel his presence, and whatever the speaker's talking about that night or that morning will all of a sudden be like, oh wow, that actually is kind of for me. And so again, be expectant for camp. I think camp is going to be really awesome because it's going to be super fun with all the games, but I think far more importantly than that is us as a youth group. We're going to have a real encounter with God, and I'm really excited for it. So I'm pumped for camp, and let's go Green Gators. So hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys Sunday, and then see you guys bright and early Monday morning for a 3-hour long drive up to camp. So catch you guys later.